3 oil tankers, international waters, Strait of Hormuz. Tuesday night, July 7th, 2026, Iran's Revolutionary Guard launches drones and a missile. 3 commercial ships are hit. By morning, the United States has launched over 80 retaliatory strikes on Iranian military targets, air defense systems, radar installations, 60 small boats used to threaten shipping. And then, at a NATO summit in Turkey, President Trump walks up to reporters and says 4 words. For me, it's over. The ceasefire, the negotiations, the fragile agreement that had caused one of the most dangerous conflicts in modern history. Over. This is what happened. This is what it means. And this is what they are not telling you. To understand today, you need to understand February 28th, 2026. That morning, the United States and Israel launched nearly 900 strikes on Iran in the first 12 hours alone. Missiles, air defenses, military infrastructure. And in those first moments, Iran's supreme leader, Ayatollah Ali Khamenei, the man who had led Iran for 34 years, was killed. The war that followed lasted weeks. Iran struck back. U.S. military bases in Bahrain and Kuwait were hit. Oil prices exploded. The Strait of Hormuz, the narrow waterway through which 20% of the world's traded oil and natural gas passes, came to a near standstill. The global economy felt it immediately. By late June, both sides were exhausted. Iran needed sanctions relief. The U.S. needed the oil to flow. A ceasefire was reached. An interim deal was struck. Iran would allow ships to pass through the strait for 60 days. The U.S. would allow Iran to sell oil openly in U.S. dollars for the first time in years. It was fragile, it was imperfect, but it was holding. Until Tuesday night. Here is what the official statements say. Iran's Revolutionary Guard attacked 3 commercial tankers in the Strait of Hormuz. The ships were using a route close to Oman shore, not the route Iran had ordered them to use. Iran says it controls the waterway. The U.S. and Gulf Arab states say that is not acceptable. The ships were hit anyway. The U.S. responded with over 80 strikes, air defense systems, coastal surveillance, surface-to-air missiles, anti-ship cruise missiles, and over 60 small Revolutionary Guard boats. Iran fired back. Ballistic missiles and drones hit U.S. military installations in Bahrain and Kuwait. Sirens sounded. Air defenses intercepted. Kuwait reported 2 ballistic missiles and 13 drones. Power lines were knocked out. Here is what the official statements do not say. The interim deal specifically allowed ships to pass through the strait without paying charges. Iran had been insisting it must control the vessel's routes and charge fees for passage. That would upend decades of international practice. The U.S. and Gulf states refused. The ships attacked Tuesday were using the route Iran had forbidden. This was not random. This was a message. Here is the part the mainstream news is not spending enough time on. Iran is not a single voice. The AP reported this morning that the renewed attacks on shipping may reflect a divide inside Iran's own leadership. Hardliners inside the Revolutionary Guard want permanent control over the Strait of Hormuz. They see it as their greatest strategic weapon. They do not want a deal. They want leverage. Pragmatists inside the Iranian government want a permanent peace deal. They want the sanctions lifted. They want the economy to recover. Khamenei is dead. The new leadership is not yet consolidated. The Revolutionary Guard does not answer to the same chain of command as the civilian government. When 3 tankers were hit Tuesday night, it may not have been an order from the top. It may have been a faction inside Iran's military that does not want peace and is willing to blow up the ceasefire to prevent it. That is the story no one is leading with. Let's talk about what is actually at stake. The Strait of Hormuz is 21 miles wide at its narrowest point. Through it passes roughly 20% of the world's traded oil and natural gas. Saudi Arabia, the UAE, Kuwait, Iraq, all of their exports go through this strait. When Iran shut it down during the war, global oil prices spiked, fertilizer prices rose, food prices rose, every country on earth felt it. Now Trump has threatened to seize Carg Island, the hub He has threatened to strike Iran's civilian infrastructure, power plants, desalination plants. He said this morning, "We hit them very hard last night. We'll probably hit them hard again tonight." Oil prices spiked over 5% after he spoke. If this conflict fully reignites, the global economic consequences are not theoretical. They are documented. They already happened once, and the second time could be worse. Trump said the ceasefire is over. He also said he will allow talks to continue. They can talk, but I think they're wasting their time. Iran's parliament speaker said, "The era of bullying and extortion is over. We don't fold." Khamenei's funeral ends Thursday. His body is being returned to Iran to be buried at the Imam Reza Shrine in Mashhad. The negotiations that were supposed to begin after the funeral, the talks about fully reopening the strait and rolling back Iran's nuclear program are now in doubt. Here is what we know. The U.S. has revoked the license that allowed Iran to sell oil openly in U.S. dollars. That was the economic lifeline the interim deal provided. It is now gone. Iran's military command has warned that any country in the region providing support to the U.S. will be considered a legitimate target. Bahrain hosts the U.S. Navy's Fifth Fleet. Kuwait hosts U.S. Army forces. Both were struck this morning. This is not a regional conflict anymore. It never was. Here's what I want you to think about. The ceasefire was not peace. It was a pause built on economic pressure, exhaustion, and a 60-day agreement that both sides were already violating in spirit before Tuesday night. The hardliners inside Iran's military may have just ended the best chance at a permanent deal, or they may have been ordered to. We do not know which. What we do know is this: the Strait of Hormuz is still contested, the oil is still not flowing freely, the U.S. military is preparing for another night of strikes, and the world's energy supply runs through a 21-mile choke point that two nuclear-capable powers are now fighting over. They will tell you this is about ships and sanctions and ceasefire language. It is about who controls the arteries of the global economy, and right now, nobody does. I'm Tom Rowe. This is Dark Signal.